2 tests have been passed, but there's still more lessons for Jia Xichun and Sinclair to take care of. So they'd better take care of it. Of all of them. On day 13, Ryushu has her first class, TCOC, taking care of children. Let's hope it's not the organized crime way of taking care of someone. Surprisingly, she gives much Ren in her class. Okay. She starts this with TKTOWK, laughing briefly. Sinclair translated that as teaching kids to deal with kids. Jia Xichun thought that Dante wasn't the only one who needed a translator. Ryushu wanted to teach a particularly bloody art class, but that AL, or Artless, much to her disapproval, discarded that lesson plan. I can see why, based on her reaction to your artwork. Dante didn't think that the lesson plans would have passed even if Zilu wasn't there. Ryushu moved on with the lesson, saying that she'll SYNC if they're UA. Jia Xichun didn't know what she was saying. Ryushu added that she'll SCAN if they're UC. Jia Xichun was lost, waiting for Sinclair to translate, who said that she'll slice your neck completely if you're an unruly adult, but she'll soothe, coax, and nurture if they're an unruly child. Jia Xichun was thinking that they're both taking the... Were they rehearsing this? And she was getting pranked? Sinclair assured her that this wasn't the case. She just has to listen carefully, evaluate the context, and she'll understand. This Jia Xichun off, asking what context was she supposed to evaluate. Ryushu told them to let the art do the talking, telling the children to MTL. Sinclair translated that as much to learn, understanding that class was about to begin. Ryushu then told the attendant to bring in the class material. Zeren then brought a child with her, where according to the Venerable Hierarch's orders, she brought a child from the Wang family. This confused Jia Xichun, as Zeren brought someone on her orders? Ryushu borrowed Honglu's attendant as there was too many travel restrictions. Sinclair, understanding that she was bringing Zeren along to get her to places. Jia Xichun was more angered by the fact that the child was brought there on her orders. At least according to Zeren, she clearly gave no such orders. But they likely didn't want to take that risk, questioning that. Ryushu then snuffed out her death stick, opened the window to clear the smoke, dusted off her clothing a few times, and only then brought the child to the elevated platform in front of the class. Dante saw that child as trembling and anxious. That child was bordering on PTSD territory, as they greeted Jia Xichun. Dante could see that the child was scared out of his mind. Yeah, scared out of his mind, and Ryushu saw that memories of childhood were important. They're the experiences that would shape your future. She told them to observe and learn. Jia Xichun wanted to know why she was acting serious, although she agreed with her regarding childhood memories. She started to speak of Honglu, but stopped herself before she could say more. Being more approachable to children might help prevent future conflicts, but That will be hard in Dagyuan Yuan, as children there were extremely wary of anyone who was not their immediate family. Even worse, she pretty much tricked that child there using her name. He must be terrified, and his parents must have given him a lot of warnings as well. Ryushu then gave a demonstration, which involved juggling a variety of objects without dropping them, along with other things. Jia Xichun was impressed that the child had taken a liking to her. Sinclair noticed the difference. He wouldn't stop crying when they tried to get him to calm down. Then Jia Xichun was concerned about Ryushu, what she was doing with her hands. Not even masters of martial arts moved like that. Dante observed that Ryushu was practically giving the child no time for any other distractions, or even a moment to cry. She was taking care of that child almost effortlessly. Yes, almost effortlessly. Other measures that she took included ventriloquism, Kongzhu, a traditional Hongguan toy, which is a Chinese version of the yo-yo. A traditional folk toy that predates the yo-yo as we know it by around 1,000 years and is much harder to control. Other things that she did was fan tricks, handing over sugared fruits, and eventually that child seemed quite pleased. Ryushu told him not to pull too hard as she gave him a piggyback ride. This made the fear go away. Sinclair never imagined that Ryushu would be good with children. Then she gently caressed the child, giving him a gentle pat. Jia Xichun gets it, showing children tasty stuff and gifts aren't the best way of going about it. What's important is helping them understand just what kind of person she was. Sinclair could see that. That child was on edge for his age. Best to make progress early. Whenever he suspected that he was lying, he'd immediately go back on being... he'd go back to being on guard. Jia Xichun told him that it's typical of the children there. They don't survive for long if they're not quick on the updates. Much like that relative of hers that was poisoned by touching a tree with a hidden poison coated on it that Honglu mentioned. The child wanted to ask her something. She told him that, he can ask her, but it'll depend on what it is that will be determined if she can help him or not. The child was not encouraged by this. Ryushu told her that this was the wrong move. Why say all that when TWOT, or 2 words do trick? She doesn't get the immacularity of succinct abbreviation. Ryushu then grabbed the child's shoulders, brought him before Jia Xichun, then, in her usual curtness, spoke precisely 2 words to the confused child, and that seemed to calm down. Speak, kid. The child said that his older sister said that when the family hierarchy war was over, he can finally play tons with friends, but their parents told them to stay inside as it's too dangerous outside. Jia Xichun listened patiently. His cousin told him that she's the biggest and the baddest of Hongguan. He wanted to ask if she can make Dagyuan Yuan safe. He wanted to play with his friends. Jia Xichun said that she'll review this suggestion positively. Sinclair roughly translated this state speak as, she'll totally make this happen. Sometime later, after Ziren guided the child out of the classroom, Jia Xichun whispered something to herself. Sinclair observed that she had much to take care of. Restructuring days was just one of them. She told him that she was going to improve the safety of that place anyway, even if he didn't ask her to. Safe enough for children to run around the market without fear. Clearly, Ryushu has experience with dealing with children. She's able to occupy and talk to that child without traumatizing him. Well, we know her story is next, so I'll save going into that for when we get to that point. Mastering Ryushu's class grants the passive, the Reassuring Heart. At the turn start, all allies, including Jia Xichun, will heal 5 SP, and at the combat start, if the main target's SP is equal or higher than Jia Xichun, she'll gain 1 protection, once per turn. The lessons of day 14 were determined by Dante, but when it gets to day 15, Rodia's first class started, called All About the Poker Face, and that has nothing to do with the song by Lady Gaga. She gives decent yong, with the added bonus of gaining morale. Rodia tells them that everyone communicates with their eyes even before they talk, so they need to pay attention to what their eyes are saying. Sinclair thought this to be great, but it's oddly specific to her to talk about this, especially when they're sitting around a gambling table. Rodia explained to him that given the time limit, this was the fastest and clearest method of demonstrating and training their ability to control their emotions. There was no ulterior motive. She was practically forced into this. She then told Wei to stop glaring at them like that and join them at the table. Wei told them that he was briefly visiting Jia Xichun to pick up some paperwork. As there was still much to be done, he'll be leaving after. Rodia told him that they needed 4 players. He refused her invitation, seeing it as ridiculous of her to force Jia Xichun into partaking in such a base activity. She certainly had the audacity to invite him as well. She then goaded him into playing by asking if he didn't think he stood a chance. She thought that he'd at least be better than her at it. She then poked fun at Wei, saying that he doesn't have a snowball chance in hell of winning. She saw it as a good philosophy. She subscribes to it. Wei asked if she thought that a shallow approach, obvious attempts at goading him into playing that game will work. She then says, "Scrub says what?" After this, Wei joined the table. To Rodia, the lesson was straightforward. They needed to work together to ensure that she doesn't win that game or be number 1 at the end. Sinclair sees this as easy enough. Rodia then tells him that she has a special power to read into their minds without hearing a word out of their mouths. She demonstrated this by saying Sinclair that, from the corners of his lips twitching, while his eyes were suspiciously wandering over there, he's looking to form a peng. Now, in case it isn't clear, they're playing Mahjong, a game originating in 19th century China involving tiles. There are regional variants in Southeastern Asia, although in this case a peng being a set of 3 identical tiles by taking a tile discarded by another player. This was precisely his plan. As for Jia Xichun, she was concerned about what she was about to say, trying to hide what she was planning. She wanted a dong tile that she has, but, this means that she won't discard that tile. Dong meaning wind. Jia Xichun asked how she knew. Sinclair considered it tougher for them not to know. Their anxiety revealed that they let that out. If they smell weakness, they'll eat you up. As for Wei, he was hard to read, even for her. The glint in his glasses hid his eyes. He considered that her greatest mistake to allow him a seat at that table. He already knew the hand she had. This was unconcerning to Rodia, as he's just as much an open book to her. He needed that one Zhong tile or red dragon. He revealed nothing, but she wasn't going to let him have it, as it's not there. She then placed a gang, which is 4 identical tiles, used to form a winning hand. Sinclair saw that she called a gang mill to claim the Zhong, the rearmost tile, and this amused Rodia. Wei understood that she implied that she knew the location of every tile in that game. She denied this, she just picked up bad vibes. Wei then saw that they should continue the game. He didn't think that he'd ever step back into that dark world of shadows, but he was seeing that Hue aside, which was one of the flower tiles. This impressed Rodia. Sinclair saw this as too intense. He could hardly get involved. Jia Xichun asked if that class was meant to be for them. Wei silenced her, seeing this as more important. Jia Xichun didn't dignify that with an answer. Rodia then saw that he swapped out his ready hand. Wei asked what she thought. She saw 3 Hue tiles in a row, seeing him as having innate luck. She'd wager it all on that one suit, one being a character suit, and this caught Wei's attention. He seemed to laugh and said that he won with a hoo, excitedly telling her that he had a Qing Zhai Zhu hand. Her downfall was written the moment she forced him into discarding that Zhong. Rodia clearly was having one of her bad days, she saw that as well played. Wei asked in that same tone if Jia Xichun saw that. She didn't like his tone, and then he came back to his senses and apologized for that vulgar display. He would bring some tea. Dante saw that this slightly soured his victory over Rodia. The lessons continued after that. Mastering Roger's class granted the God of Gamblers passive, where upon a clash win without losing any coins, regardless of whether they hit or not. And if they, every coin that flipped by that attack, down to the last coin, flipped heads, the final attack, the final part of that attack, rather, would deal 30% more damage. Day 16 and 17 have classes determined by Dante. Day 18 was another midterm. Jia Xichun then saw Wang Zhao and said that she heard from Honglu that he sent his coins to Kongqiu. He told her that every hand, once in circulation, goes round and round until it eventually returns to their original owners. She also heard that some of the Wang family helped with removing the outside forces from there, asking why. He simply stated that he only wanted to preserve the place from being robbed blind. He lives there. It's where his wealth lies. She then asked for his public support. It wouldn't be that easy. He gave her the moon, so she expects him to give the stars as well. It's clear whose hands have the true political power of Hongluan now. With that in mind, let's say he does so. He's not going to have a voice to speak of by the time they're done with him. Jia Xichun understands that this wasn't going to be easy. She said that if Jia Xichun genuinely believes that she's not fit to be the family hierarch, then she'll happily remove herself from power. But she's affiliated with Keycore. Does he seriously believe that she has Hongguan's best interests at heart, with all those conspiracies that she's been weaving under the surface, all those business deals and clearly skewed policies? Yeah, she sought to win the confidence of key people, so her intentions are dishonest, even if she doesn't admit it. He doesn't believe that. But if she's going to present herself as an alternative, then she'll have to be someone concrete enough to rely on. Let's say that about half the board of directors' votes may as well be considered abstaining votes. They'll be keeping their silence because they're afraid of Jia Xichun's retaliation, so her remaining task is to convert those silent votes in her favor. This was clearly understood by her. He saw that she wasn't shaken by that. He thought that she'd get that lost and wandering look in her eyes. Jia Xichun understood that she needed to work on that poker face. Wang Zhao understood that most people would have failed to pick that up. She certainly changed since the evaluation. Her growth showed a lot of promise. Maybe it's why Honglu handed his coins to her, and not just that. Well, because they needed to in order to come in second place as intended. She understood this to mean Hongguan's tomorrow. Wang Zhao then got on with what he was supposed to do. His cousin was her opponent. It was Wang Qingshan. He wouldn't accept her as her hierarch yet. She must fight her and prove that she's at least better than her. Only then will she accept her. She did so, and thanks to her improved combat abilities, was able to win this match. Wang Zhao clearly understands more than he's saying, while also giving Jia Xichun the information that she needed. He just saw that it was up to her to use it to achieve her objectives. Wang Qingshan was silent after her defeat. Jia Xichun asked her if she had something to say to her face. She did, telling Jia Xichun not to give her brother her. Jia Xichun wasn't sure who she meant. Wang Qingshan told her about the mess she left behind when she took him away. And Dante realized that this child, he was a part of Ryushi's class. She told Jia Xichun that she can barely keep hold of her seat, which she believes that she'll lose anyway, and yet she gives him false hope. She knows it's just politics, but children believe her. Jia Xichun heard from him that she seemed relieved upon hearing what she said. Wang Qingshan she waited for her to finish, and Jia Xichun continued by saying that she was told that she was happy for one to hear that he had a fun time after being barred from playing with his friends with how things were in Hongguan. This made Wang Qingshan feel insecure, telling Jia Xichun to shut up, who made it clear that she meant what she said, which surprised Wang Qingshan. Jia Xichun told her that it was no empty promise when she said that she'd change Hongguan to be a place where everyone can live without fear. For that, she'll protect her seat of power no matter what it takes. Wang Qingshan believed that she'll fail. Jia Xichun didn't think so, not with her on her side. Wang Qingshan gave nothing away. Jia Xichun made it clear that they both know what Jia Wanchun's Hongguan will look like. Exactly the same in essence, now and for the foreseeable future. Was she okay with handing over that same burden that they've carried all their lives to her siblings? Wang Qingshan wasn't. She then left in a hurry, The look in her eyes that Dante noticed told them that a conflict was brewing in her. Day 19 was Heathcliff's first class, which was called Fighting's All About Morale, which I suspect will be more than just how to smash someone's skull in. His class gives much yong. At the start of his class, which was in the training grounds, sorry, Heathcliff, but I can't take you seriously when you're wielding that. A pink hedgehog in a red dress is probably looking for that. Anyway, he told them to listen up. This wasn't going to be like them boring classes they've been sitting through. They've got to leave the desk behind once in a while to learn some real-life lessons. So they have to break the morale before the brawl even begins. This was confusing to Jia Xichun. If they learn this by heart, they'll be able to kick those left, right and centre. Jia Xichun made it clear that wasn't what she was there for. Sinclair had a question for Heathcliff. Questionably, he noticed that he didn't have his usual weapon. It looks more colourful as well. Heathcliff thought that he wouldn't notice. It was because Wei thought that swinging his usual weapon would be too threatening for the purposes of that class, so he took it away. Zilu said that the weapon that he wielded now cries boop when it hits people. Well, this cleared that up to Sinclair. Heathcliff told him not to underestimate him, just because he's holding a different weapon. They should get on with it, telling them to straighten their shoulders, eyes wide open, let's get cracking. He then raised his weapon towards the sky. It made a small boop noise. Thankfully, since we can't hear My Sweet Passion playing in the background, we can safely assume that this class will not get interrupted. It carried on as planned. His passive, once his class is mastered, is My Bestie and a Rival, where the turn starts, if Sinclair is participating in this battle, Jia Xichun and Sinclair both gain 2 offense level up and 2 defense level up. This doesn't count if he's a backup unit, as in not fighting at that point. Although it does count if he appears in battle and participates directly. Day 20 was when the classes were determined by Dante. Day 21 has a new teacher for Jia Xichun and Sinclair, one that gave a decent amount of Ji, Zhong, and Ren. It was another outdoor class, and Zilu told them that, after a pause, they will be taught by a guest lecturer who has been invited for their tutelage. Jia Xichun wasn't informed of this. Dante asked where they were. Sinclair thought that they were lost. Then a voice told them that Jia Xichun would gift him a bottle of top-notch cloudy wine straight from Dagyuan Yuan's brewer, asking if there's any truth to that. Yep, it's that guy. Dante certainly recognized that voice, as did Sinclair. It was that alcoholic assassin for hire, the night drifter of the Drunken Palm. He stopped by to see if he could leech some liquor from those parts. Hong Yuan is awfully miserly, asking if they could spare a shot of that. Jia Xichun wasn't fooled. He wasn't an old drifter, asking if they knew him. Sinclair told her that he ambushed them in their room after the first round of the family hierarch war. This was a shock to Jia Xichun, as the family hierarchy war had been over for a while. They all know who the winner was, asking how a mongrel like him, who only knows how to mooch off other families, dares to set foot in there, believing that she'll need to sternly talk to her clan for letting slip a drunk assassin like that. The Night Drifter understands why she's suspicious, but he's no moocher. He's only a drunkard who enjoys a cool swig of liquor with scenic landscapes. The sky as his ceiling and the dirt as his bed. He said this from an above position, landing with dexterity that betrayed the rags that he wore, and the terrible stench of liquor emanating from him. Not to mention how alcohol can make it harder to stay balanced. Jia Xichun annoyingly asked if he was seriously. Sard then informed her that Jia Xichun sent him. This puzzled Jia Xichun. Then Sard relayed a message that she was sending that master. She felt a deep sense of trepidation and pity for her dearest little sister, the neophyte hierarch. You must be struggling left and right without a proper master. Not as much as she thinks. Either way, she's clearly taking the. Jia Xichun sarcastically said that she's beside herself with gratitude, figuring out that the Night Drifter is the teacher. He had a mysterious allegiance who might stab them in the back at any time. The Night Drifter was fully aware of all of that. Him assassinating Honglu was just business. He was doing that because he was paid to do it, hoping that she won't hold that against him. This is considering that death for Honglu is a temporary setback. He suspected that she didn't harm her rivals in the family hierarchy war out of personal vendetta. Sometimes business is just business. As for the specific terms of his contract against Jia Bayu, this particular contract was to pay off his bar tab, and on this occasion he's being hired to teach Jia Xichun in exchange for paying off his future tabs. Yeah, as long as the booze keeps flowing, he'll do whatever they tell him to do. He's a gig worker working for a living, seeking to teach her, and there's nothing to be gained from taking her anger out on him. It was clear that Jia Xichun was distrustful of him. Sard then reminded her that if she rejects him, one who was sent by Jia Xichun, it wouldn't look good. And Jia Xichun was frustratingly aware of this, that it would only make her look worse. She'd rather not give Jia Xichun more ammunition to take her down than she already has. Sard was nervous at this hopeless situation. She'll have eyes tracking the Night Drifter's every move, so she advises him not to do anything that might arouse any unnecessary suspicion. He found this threat to be amusing. He could hardly taste the wine before such hostility. Before he began the lesson, he needed an idea of where they were, telling them to give him a demonstration, to swing away. Jia Xichun did, and he quickly told her to stop. Apparently it was worse than he thought. Jia Xichun said that she was just getting started. He saw that her form was flawed and her breathing was hollow. Seeing flawed forms often mean flawed hearts. Her martial arts prowess is amateurish. Amateurish. Yes, I really need to get better at speaking English. This her off. She never had a single master who had anything bad to say about her form. Well, that's because they didn't want to get on your family's bad side. The Night Drifter had no such fear. He said what he wanted to say, likely partly due to alcohol lowering his inhibitions. He told her that her arms were straight and her legs, supporting her stance, were solid and sturdy. Indeed, most masters would not bother themselves to find fault there. but he clearly had a different standard to her previous masters. Well, he asked if she was satisfied with martial arts that was made to dispatch unskilled peasants and no more. Jia Xichun wasn't sure what he meant. He saw no more to that than raw strength, telling her to take a swing at him instead, which she did so, as he was asking for it. He was not impressed. Her mind outpaced her body, her intent more transparent than a glass globe, and her edge was dull with little heart for feints. He deftly weaved between her strikes, which failed to even touch him. And this was clearly getting to her. The Night Drifter saw her as far too eager to strike, focused singularly on her opponent, with force distributed unevenly across her body. She'll fail to cut and gain a little hold for her troubles. He then poked her back with a twig. This reminded her that everyone vying for the seat of family hierarch had to go through it eventually. The first kill. Some say the earlier the better. Hers was when she was 13. Not too early, not too late. Just right. It had already been a few years since her foolish brother locked himself up in his chamber. Last she heard, he was bedridden for a week after ingesting some poison someone had sent to prank him. She wouldn't live like him. Then many years later, she found out why he chose to lock himself away and why he lived like that, because of the trauma of that day. Back in the present, the Night Drifter told her to try and relax her body. She has a weapon, but she mustn't be singularly focused on the opponent, advising her to try and to reflect on herself and relax. Let the unnecessary strength go. Let it flow out of her body. Tensing up will naturally shrink her mind and narrow her vision. Then back in the past, in Huangjiangwu, Jia Xichun asked Wei if she should send her brother a silver spoon. It wasn't that bad this time, but what if it was way worse poison next time? Wei reminded her that he wouldn't accept that. He doubts that Jia Baiyu is even seeking out whoever did it. She saw it as stupid. Zero interest in anything practical. Zero ambition, seeing this as a pathetic attitude to have. Wei then reminded her that it wasn't practicality that guided her when she chose to save his life over maintaining her control over the Wu branch. Back in the present, the Night Drifter stated that some seek the state of anatta, the non-self, but what they truly seek is the path of Azura, reserved for blade fiends. She must learn to let go of everything, except the self. Jia Xichun asked what kind of life is it to live without stepping over others? She instructed her to let it all go. The gazes, the pressures, all of it. Instead, she should face herself and only herself and feel how light it all becomes. After some thought, Dante saw that Jia Xichun's form was visibly relaxed, along with other parts of her. This impressed the Night Drifter. Then he turned his attention to Sinclair, asking if he'll maintain his grave and cocky silence. He denied that he was. He remembered that he was one of Jia Baiyu's underlings. Sinclair saw it as pointless to correct him, as that was as good a term as any. The Night Drifter asked why he, among the others, was chosen to take this class alongside Jia Xichun. This briefly caught Sinclair off guard. He then replied with, "Who else besides him would ever go with these lesson plans? Don Quixote would ditch her classes out of boredom, much as Rodio would. Otis would try to take over the classes, not to mention what it would be like to have Heathcliff there, and The Night Drifter found these excuses amusing, asking how come he knows so little about himself, less than what he's already learned about him. Sinclair asked, what was he talking about? He told Sinclair that a bird that has failed to break its shell in time will rot within its confines. Sinclair didn't understand what he was getting at. Dante noticed that the anxiety made way for confusion. The Night Drifter told him to prepare himself to flit away before the rain. He won't get another chance should he miss the opportunity. Sinclair was silent at this. The Night Drifter was less serious at this point. It was a while since he let himself babble for this long. He can credit both of those he's teaching for that, telling them to prepare to swing away. This class was called Rambling Tales of the Drunken Palm. Anatta being a composite of changing physical and mental components of the soul. Azura are prideful, wrathful, and resentful demigods or anti-gods, depending on where you look. Those that seek constant conflict, desiring power and contention. Day 22 and 23 will have classes that are at the discretion of Dante. Day 24 is another sparring match. This sparring match was against the psychotic Zuripan, who was glad that he got his head screwed back on, seeing it as a precious sight to watch everyone all freaking out about the child's play. Jia Xichun's silence said that she wasn't expecting any improvement since the last time, wisely keeping her expectations low. Zuripan lamented all the missed news since he opened his eyes in the recovery room, which sounded very enticing. He wished that he was there to watch it all. Half his family arrested for treason, the seat of the family hierarch going to the inexperienced Jia Xichun, not to mention how his sister, Zuri Baruchai, had her engagement called off, and how she's now branded a traitor to her own blood. So all that's there for Honglu to come back home to after all this is Jia Xichun. She's the only one there that he actually feels anything positive for. Then he started to lose it and thought that all the world's entertainment in the world seems to have happened during his little nap. Jia Xichun then spoke to him after hearing what he had to say. She told him that he didn't even show his face at the regular assembly, so he doubted that he had any concern for the future of Hongguan, asking what he's doing there. Apparently he's there to have some fun, which in this case means trying to kill Jia Xichun. Now, he might be stronger than the previous opponents, but Jia Xichun had learned much in a short time, and she defeated the deranged child of the Zui family. Zuripan was confused, asking why stop now, telling her to decapitate him like it's his last death, stab him in the heart, or cut his limbs to ribbons. Jia Xichun made it clear that this was a spar, not a fight to the death. He saw this as frustrating. She has the opportunity of a lifetime right before her eyes, and she's too weak to use it. She had everyone who fights her on every step of the way coming to her, practically presenting their heads on a silver platter, and she's just going to let them slink away with those scratches. Well, living people spread the word faster than dead people. Jia Xichun told him to get his act together. The family hierarch war is over, and she's not going to kill someone just because they're being a bit uncooperative. This made him react to Jia Xichun like the Joker is watching a business person trying to pass themselves off as more than just barely human, with manic laughter at how ridiculous this sounds. Telling her to get real. Does she have any idea how long it will take for her to gain even a morsel of power by playing this fool's game? He gave her a little tip on how she can firmly establish her position as the family hierarch. kill him in the most horrible, painful, hideous way she can imagine, and then hang his corpse by the entrance of the assembly hall over there. To use him to send a clear message. Then station every single one of her high-shoe packs between every pillar of the assembly hall. If anyone dares to speak out against her, chop their head off before they can get another word out. He believed that it would only take 5 days before everyone starts following her, telling her that's how she'll establish herself as hierarch, believing that fear is power. Ah yes, Niccolo Machiavelli thought that it's better to be feared and loved, but if you can't be both, it's better to be feared. But while fear is effective short-term, it's rarely a workable plan long-term, as resentment and anger will build up over time. And when fear ceases to be effective, that's when the problems come. Jia Xichun saw this as the opposite of what she wanted to do. She wanted to make Hongguan a place where its people can live without fear. She thought that he'd understand this. He remembered how she thought that he remembered how he used to hate hurting people, more so than anyone else. Zero Pan saw that as a boring answer that was duller than even his dullest expectations, believing that it'll take a few years until she breaks, until she becomes just like them, just like the family hierarchs of the past who couldn't help but ruthlessly weed out any seeds of resistance, asking how many people there does she think still has any grip on their sanity. Maybe he's only a few years away of becoming an idiot shuffling aimlessly around Daguan Yuan. He can only hope that he won't be a slobbering mess by the time it happens. If something is entertaining that is going to happen, he can only hope that it happens while he's still sane. Well, still has what little sanity he has left anyway. He then sauntered away, but Jia Xichun found it difficult to move on. Wei congratulated her. She passed the 4th exam. She certainly crushed each for underestimating her. But he stopped when he noticed that she didn't appear happy. She didn't say anything. Wei asked about this, but Dante could see that she seemed pretty engrossed in thoughts. Yeah, Zuripan's words hit her harder than any physical attack coming from him did. As for Zuripan's idea, that is what the previous hierarchs did, because the Imperial Worm twisted them into functional psychopaths, if they weren't so already. Where in the case of Jiamu, she took care of those that might be a threat to her. A paranoid delusion or a real threat, it meant nothing. She went as far as luring the head to wipe out the Kong family. The head approved of her cruel and inventive way of eliminating a threat, seeing it as very human, which was why they let her live. On day 25, Wei told them that Jia Xichun was in a particular mood that day. She believed that it was all useless. This was concerning to Sinclair. Jia Xichun believed that when those classes end and they leave, she'll be spending her days worried to death that an assassin could pop out of nowhere and kill her at any moment. Consumed by so much paranoia and worry, she'll start twitching at shadows cast at lamplight. So would it mean anything to her to prove to them that she deserved to be the family hierarch? She spent her whole life trying to prove to everyone that she had the will and determination to become the family hierarch, and now she has to prove to everyone that she deserves to keep this position. To those whose only thought in their empty heads is how they can expand their rooms. Yeah, simple greed. Sinclair thought about it and asked Wei if he's ever heard of playing hooky before. Wei asked if it was a euphemism for eliminating your enemies. No, it's not killing them slowly and painfully on hooks. Sinclair rarely did it when he was in school. When there's too much going on in his head, he skipped school and went out to play. Wei got it now. Sinclair nervously confessed to doing it once after a friend talked him into doing it. Likely not Chroma, as, she visited his home after school. Wei agreed that Jia Xichun needed to clear her head. She wanted to know what they were doing. They had to get moving. She had to prove herself. To get those approval. Dante saw that she was in a bad mood that day, even by her standards. Wei asked if she visited the backyard by the Luxury or Snow Reed Hermitage recently. Jia Xichun didn't, but she knew what happened there. They threw in a few dead bodies from the massacre a decade ago, which turned the pond foul and decided to bury the whole thing. So it's not just the Kong family that got slaughtered. It's probably around 2 years after that massacre. If it's exactly a decade ago. Unless she's being approximate and those that weren't there in the Kong family building were slaughtered and dumped in the pond as if they were in that building. They'd have to... we'd have to have the conclusion that they were eaten by the sweepers, where Kong Q was the only one allowed to live because he was far enough away to not be seen as even an accessory to the crimes that was Jamu's. Unless this was a different group that Jamu saw as a potential threat. Paranoia was strong with her. Wei confirmed that they did. The stench was so overwhelming and toxic that corpses of animals and plants could be seen floating on its surface, eventually turning that pond into a festering black bog. People passing by had to plug their noses or risk passing out. Jia Xichun asked why bring up something so awful like that. According to Wei, a tree had taken root there, even with all that rot. A willow tree had reached deep into the pond with its roots, clearing it of the foul grease, cleansing the water. One day they found it clear and glittering, thriving with other aquatic plants growing within. It recovered from the rot. Likely from corpses killed by poison if it was that toxic, as decomposing bodies by themselves are unlikely to be that harmful by themselves. It's become a normal clear pond surrounded by leaves and moss. Just months ago, they introduced a new group of carps in there, and more recently, they were found to be just as alive as they were when they were first introduced there. He asked if she'd like to pay that pond a visit. Jia Xichun didn't trust this, but followed him anyway. He turned out to be 100% correct. She was glad that her information was out of date on this occasion. She never thought that it could be that clean again. Sinclair couldn't believe that the pond that he was seeing used to be a rotten bog. All that happened was a tree happened to take root there. Wei told her that what happens is patience and determination. The reason why he didn't mention this sooner was that he didn't think about it for a while. That and red tape was taking much of his time. The point was that the world has a stronger capacity to heal itself than one might imagine. Recovery will follow as long as there's a steady route to rally around. After a long break that freshened their hearts, Sard saw that they were making progress. Her form, the light in her eyes, she'd improved in all aspects. She'd even had a change of heart as well. Jia Xichun couldn't deny this. She felt more comfortable than she did before. She and Sinclair continued with the rest of their classes, with full morale restored. Yeah, that was a low point, but let's hope it gets better. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!